am a two-spirit queer Yaqui spiritual warrior born in Mexico. I dance Chicago footwork and have been studying and documenting healing through Chicago footwork and how Black, Indigenous, and Latina communities have affected and are interlinked through the culture. There's a Yaqui story of the talking tree who warned our ancestors of the colonizers, the coming of Christianity, and many things that have since come to pass. Some ancestors stayed to get strong and battle, while the other portion of our ancestors went back to live in the enchanted wilderness worlds. Yaqui believe in many overlapping worlds, or ania, that exist together as one, and our deer dance is an example of that. Each part of the outfit the Yaqui deer dancer wears represents a different ania, or world, as they dance through all these layered spaces. The Yaqui deer dance is an example of preserving our history and spiritual truth through dance. I ask, what are the QT POC Indigenous roots of Chicago footwork dance, and how Indigenous beliefs are related to spiritual healing through Chicago footwork? Let's take it to the warehouse. The night disco died in Chicago in 1979, which ended up being not just people burning disco records, but Black, Latino, and gay artists' records, led to disco not exactly dying in Chicago, but going underground and then re-emerging as house music. Chicago house culture initially emerged from queer people of color creating a safe space to come together. The Warehouse, established 1977 by Robert Williams, was initially a members-only club for Black gay men and usually frequented by Latino and Black men. The Warehouse started as a place where people could be open, free to be themselves, and enjoy a night without having to worry about being harassed. How do you feel this has evolved over time throughout Chicago house, ghetto house, juke, and footwork culture in Chicago?
With the music, with house, ghetto house, and Chicago footwork, each one has a different essence that was added or kind of tweaked to it. And but the core essence, even in the beginning, was free. So if the same way when I was speaking about Chicago footwork being a tool to reach that point of peace and freedom within you, it was still the same with ghetto house. It was still the same with house. Even if the message may be different. So some of the messages in the music was a little bit different in each three categories, but that was still a tool for those people to access that peace in those places. So I feel that in the culture and those different stages, it was different times. People was going through different things, and people went to those tools and to that music to release and get away from the things, or I should say the layers that was on them. So by them, whatever they was going through they was in the house era, and the layers that they had from things in their life, going to those warehouse parties made them feel free and come out them layers where they can be themselves, be genuine. Whatever they wanted to do, whatever movement they wanted to do, they was able to be in that type of free space. When ghetto house, you have people that have these layers of their defenses up in these projects, and they're going through so much different stuff and trials and tribulations. This music was like the news, and they had something to call their own, and they was able to use it to remove those layers and party and be at peace in that time. Now, yeah, they may had anger, a fight may break out, but majority of the people were going there because that was their salvation at that time in their living situations. And people will travel to come there, regardless of it could be violent neighborhood. People still come because they knew that type of peace, that type of freedom, that type of happiness they was gonna feel by being in that space. And then you have now footwork, or the where music is at now. It's still that same thing. It's a little bit more a variety, but it's still the same source. It's still the same source, and it will still get you to the same place.
Over time, the evolution from disco and like the music transitioning, there's a couple of parts to break down. The music did change. Opportunities did like shut, or doors were closed in a sense. So there was ingenuity, there was DIY, there was community, like in those moments where people are putting their own resources together. So there was spaces like built by community for community. And you see like evidence of that in the footwork today, like Battlegrounds, like BG's, the Cage, you know, all of these spaces that people are putting together with their own money, like to make just room for youth and people that are involved to be able to take, like, you know, share this thing. But as far as like the queer aspect to it, it might be a little, I don't know, maybe my opinion could be skewed because I spend a lot of time at home, but I think it could be a little inclusive, sometimes almost divisive. Sometimes it feels like there's not enough space still.
The house community always had the queer thing going on, even to now. In the dance group world, now it's more open. Back then it was more closet kept. You couldn't really show it. Behind closed doors, a lot of shit was going on. No, it wasn't accepted like that. Now it is, but back then, because we were in the inner city with the gangbangers, killers, like, you couldn't walk down the street, switch, do none of that shit, like, you'll get killed. If you was that way, you had to act like you wasn't that way for your safety, whether you went to school or wherever, because it was gang infested back then everywhere in the city. So you couldn't be that way nowhere. Out on the street, in school, you'll get your butt whooped. So it was done behind closed doors. You know, they had groups of people that had parties or whatever, you know, they did all this stuff behind closed doors, but nothing in public because they would have got killed. Now, the house parties was a little bit different because it's like a party for us. And the Thuggish Ruggish Bones and the Game Bangers and all that wasn't really going into those type of places. So it's kind of like, that's why it's invite only. So that's why they was able to really do it that way. Because we wanted to dance, and that's the type of music we wanted to dance to, we were able to put aside our differences to be able to go, because we wanted to express ourselves for dance. We kind of was okay with being around those type of people because, you know, this is a culture that we like, you know, and we wanted to be a part of it. So we didn't judge them or look at them any different or none of that, you know. The people that got beat up, you got the people, you know, that had to get beat up because they wanted to come to a party. Like, so if you was from the east side, you couldn't come over to the low end because of the different gangs. But they was a part of the culture and they wanted to be a part of it, so they came anyway. So now they got to leave the party early because they don't want to get caught. But some of them still got caught, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, I'm going to get beat up because I want to go to this party, but I don't care. If I get beat up, I get beat up, but I'm going to this party. But that's what was the mindset back then. People got beat up, shot at, all type of stuff. You know, they went through a lot, you know, stealing, whatever it took to be able to get to that situation. And some people even got taken advantage of to be a part of the situation. Like, it's sad.
Growing up in Chicago footwork culture with Juke being like my starting point of a generation, even though like I still went to some ghetto house spots, you know, some house music clubs, Juke being my generation, you know, when I came in, it was still connected to second generation to a certain degree. That means that there was a lot of performances and dance downs. And dance downs are super crucial and super, like, they were life-changing for me. You know, Chicago Footwork battle cliques didn't have it all together. They didn't have events. They didn't have things that they were throwing all the time that were like super organized, like the dance downs. The dance downs were very organized.
How has dance down culture had an impact on Chicago house, juke, and footwork over the years?
It's everything. That's the part that I need the rest of the world to see, because that's like New Orleans Second Line Band, or even Vogue's like ballroom Vogue, like, you know how those like kind of go hand in hand. The competitive energy, the building up of practicing all year. They're like the way I remember it, like dance groups would like tag in like the streets, so they would like put out jars, like they're collecting donations and they're doing routines, and they saving up money for uniforms, for like Bud Billiken or big dance downs that are like big trophies, the cash prizes, but like they're showing everything they got, and like families are there, full families are there, your teachers are there, like the whole community. So like that's always been a part of it, like where everybody gets to come together and you able to see like the full scope. There's not just footworking, there's like routine and choreography, and groups like competing, and like it's a full-on spectacle, like whereas we kind of like honed in on this one aspect of it that we really love, but the culture is just a little bit wider than that.
So a dance down was like a bunch of different dance troupes that were doing choreography performances and stuff, mixed with Chicago Footwork and a lot of the cultural dances from the Black community. But there was a lot of people from the gay community that were in these dance troupes, you know? And we would go to their dance downs to watch their performances, because they were full out. Like, I'm talking costumes, I'm talking everything, just crazy, you know? If it wasn't for those, I don't even think Chicago Footwork would be where it is now, because in Chicago, because like we needed to learn from these dance groups that were way more organized. And so that was my exposure to like different communities in Chicago, and not being harassed and being supported and being embraced, especially the gay community. Like, they were in these events all the time performing, you know, top of the line, like quality. And I like that I saw that, because Chicago is known to be a very segregated city. But like in those spaces, it didn't feel segregated, even though culture-wise, as far as like the, you know, like the Puerto Rican side of town, the Cuban side of town, the Mexican side of town, like I didn't see too many of those cultures in the dance scene as much, in the juke scene, in the footwork scene. I would have loved to see that more, because I grew up in a household with Puerto Ricans. So I'm very open to all of that, but I didn't have the access to see that, and maybe those communities didn't feel comfortable joining ours, maybe because of the systematic segregation. Because I honestly don't even feel like it's the people. I feel like it's the systems that like are organizing homes to be like to support this culture over here and to support this culture over here, or raise the prices over here to make these people move out and live over here, like, you know. And people are just kind of like moving around like cattle, you know what I mean? Which is very unfortunate. But every time I've seen like different lifestyles in the same room of, you know, like the Latin community, the gay community, like even now we're bringing a lot more people from the rave community into the Chicago Footwork events, and it's very supportive, you know? So I love that energy, because it's dance, it's music, it's beautiful, it's colorful. We all need that breath of fresh air from each other. So, but a party with all the different types of people in the party, I haven't seen that much. Maybe up north in Chicago, it would have to be a house night, you know? and then different people are coming through. A ghetto house night, I see less. I see more just of the black community, you know what I mean? And then the Chicago Footwork, you know, their like footwork music and stuff, I would see the footworkers, a lot of people from the black community, but like I would see music lovers from different ethnicities and different like races and cultures, because they're music lovers, you know. But I still feel like we still got a lot of growing to do and connecting to do. I feel like that systematic segregation is still there, and I feel like it's like hiding in plain sight, you know what I mean? And I do feel like it's changeable by us if we noticed it together. And then we decide to make a lot of noise and be like, no, that's not what we're doing. We're supporting each other. We're throwing events where we're inviting everybody out and we're showing equal love. You know what I'm saying? I feel like that's going to have to be more on our side. Like if this was brought up in conversations and then and now you hear some of the legendary people say, no, y'all got my support. Let's do this. You know, we bring it up to each other, like at an event or publicly, like I guarantee you it'll be a lot of support on the table, you know, because I don't feel like it's us as the community, as the dancers, as the producers, you know, from different sides of town. I just think it's the way that the city has been set up historically.
How has your experience been as a queer person in Chicago house and footwork culture over the years?
I felt like when I was confused about myself, maybe people were too, or maybe there was just the ultimate like unsureness, I guess. But I still feel like it's a bit macho sometimes. The masculinity can be toxic, and I feel like we shouldn't joke about people like sexuality, or we shouldn't make them feel like they aren't enough or they aren't included or welcome, because they are enough, they are welcome. They should feel like that, especially if they contribute to the community. So that's just something, I guess I would like to see more openness with that, and just like more acceptance. It ain't gotta be like, you know, we don't have to talk. Like, I guess it should be okay to talk about too. Yeah, there's some room for improvement. Let's say that.
Do you feel there is any connection behind Indigenous or Latina cultures and Chicago house or footwork?
We had a few Mexicans, but mostly black people. Like, it was really a black thing. Like, we didn't really have no white people, a few Mexicans, that's it. Like, but those were the people that was like in that, like in Inglewood, that stayed in that neighborhood. You know, that was cool with us, but outside of that, no. Once we start really, you know, really taking it to other places and it really started expanding, then really around the 2000s is when it started opening up for all the other nationalities to come in. You know, because they was playing the mixes on B96 back then. You had a mixture of people that was on the radio on B96. So music is one thing, because, you know, at the radio stations, there really wasn't a lot of black people working at the radio station. So we used to send them our music like, hey, you need to play that, you know. So, but music always been crossover since the beginning, because even overseas, they love the house music. So the house music always was popular overseas with other cultures. It's just the actual dance part that wasn't.
When Tech Life was like Ghetto Techs, and then we had like a division of Latino and Hispanic DJs, and they were all like a strong collective, and they had a strong presence like sonically, and then they were releasing a lot of music like DJ Remy, DJ Pillsbury. It's some more.
Chicago Footwork is, tied to everything. Dance is one thing. Dance is life. So anytime you talk about a section of life, you're still talking about the whole body. You know, it's like if I talk about my fingers, I'm still talking about my body. If I talk about my foot, I'm still talking about my body. So a lot of people label sections of movement to a dance style. So when they look at the feet, oh, we're talking about tap dance, we're talking about Chicago Footwork, we're talking about jit, we're talking about house, you know, but then you look at the arms and it's like, oh, we're talking about waving. You look at the chest, oh, we're looking at popping, we're looking at crump, you know, like, but it's still the one body, you know. So it's one of those things that when it comes to these different cultures, no matter if it's the indigenous or whoever, look at what they're doing is some key elements here that shows you it's the same thing. One, the drums. You always hear the drums, which relate to the heartbeat, which always stays in a certain repeated pattern. It's a constant repeated pattern like meditation or hypnosis. It's the same whatever it is, whatever tribal doom 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 yo, it's still that same. It's gonna be repeated like a track. When you hear a footwork track, it's still doom 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 doom. It's gonna loop. Now more sounds may be added on there, and then some sounds may come out at a later time. Words may be added on those tracks, but it's the constant metronome that's going to keep you in like a trance state to ascend to a higher state of awareness. And that is how they were able to connect not just to the music, but to their environment, to nature, to their divine self, to be able to get to a state of a heightened awareness, go to sleep and have visions, you know, of things to come, things that pass. And it's I call it the real Wi-Fi. You know what I'm saying? Like humans, we got our man-made Wi-Fi, but that was a copy of the natural Wi-Fi that you can tap into, which again, there are tools to tap you into the natural Wi-Fi, which is dance, which is working out, meditation, breath work, all of these things, yoga. There's a lot of different things that could tap in to this universal stream of creation where everything comes from, future, past, present, all as one. And when you tap into that, you can see the ancestry of what's in you has already here been before you, and it will still be here after you. And you understand that the bigger picture, that's the bigger picture. So so when you see those things like different cultures, understand that it's you, it's a part of you that you may not even realize, but it's a part of you. We're all connected.
Music and dance, you know, when we were coming up, we were in sync with the music. So like that's how we got to the height that we got, but it wasn't spiritual. I mean, you can say it was spiritual, but technically it wasn't spiritual. Like it ain't like, okay, this is some spiritual stuff, let's get going. It was more so our dance group and most of the dance groups was driven by the pain of the shit that they was going through on a daily basis. Whether it was the crack epidemic, you know, the drug dealers, the alcoholics, the killing that was going on, like, and they in all of this stuff. Didn't eat. I ain't had no food to eat today, you know. I ain't got no new shoes. Everybody talking about me, like all these different things that you're going through basically was brought out in dance. So it was spiritual on that level, but not, you know, connecting to one religion or anything like that. And nothing that's sacred with the land or looking back at other people or nothing like that. It was just something that we did and created in that moment that had nothing to do with nothing else. Because we wasn't watching TV. We was outside. Well, like back then, we wasn't in the house watching TV. We was outside playing, doing everything up under the sun. We was never in the house. It came from, and we ain't went nowhere. Everybody was in their community. Like, ain't nobody traveling nowhere and none of that. So It just basically something that we created and derived just from listening to the music and just moving.
How do you feel your indigenous Blackfoot roots tie into your journey with dance and healing?
I feel like, finding out that I'm mixed with Blackfoot is so crazy, because it's like, as I'm realizing this, I'm getting booked to go to places like Alberta and Calgary, Canada, and they're watching my former crew's film called Take Flight, and I'm one of the starring people in the film documentary, and before they even introduce the films, before they introduce the event, they're on the microphone giving acknowledgement to the land that they're on, which is Blackfoot territory. And it's so crazy, because I was just studying more about that and finding out that one of the main places in the North American region for Blackfoot is Alberta, Canada. And I'm like, this is where I'm at right now. Yeah, Blackfoot, just being in that territory, makes me even more curious to want to learn, because I want to represent everything that's in my blood. I want to represent everything that I'm connected to. And yeah, I have a few friends that are from indigenous cultures and families, from Cree to Blackfoot, and so I want to learn more, and I want to find out some of their roots and figure out maybe if there's ways that I can communicate between both Chicago Footwork and other dances, or ways of communication.
Do you feel dance can be spiritual? How can dance connect us to different realities?
Dance is spiritual. Because for one, in order to move, you have to have the energy behind the movement. So you don't just walk. You're not walking automatically. You have intention. You have an energy when you get up. Oh, you wake up in the morning, I can use the bathroom. The spirit moved you to that location. I am having this interview because the spirit moved me to this location. So just being that, I didn't just magically appear here. So when you understand that, it's the same for dancing. The same for dancing. You hear the sound, it's going to strike a feeling inside. Depending on that person and where that person is in their life journey, that feeling gonna spawn something inside them. It could be an infinite amount of things, but whatever channel that person is tuned into, that is what's gonna emit. So with dance being a spiritual thing, it's again a tool. That's why I keep saying dance is a tool, because there are many tools. You have working out, going to the gym, working out. That's a tool to tap in. You have people that do yoga, stretching. That's a tool to tap in. You have people that meditate. They're not even moving. That's a tool. You have people that sleep. That's a tool. So it's many different tools to still do and reach the same point. When you have people that do a method of thing called breath work, where they're actually disciplining their breathing on certain rhythms to tap in spiritually. When you're dancing, when we're dancing, we are still doing breath work subconsciously. So when you're dancing, your breath is changing. You're not breathing exactly the same as you would when you're not dancing. So when you're dancing, you're getting into a zone of which is a form of breath work. And you're starting to get to a point of time starts to kind of change in a sense. Where it's you may lose track of time. We'll be in the party and the footwork segment may be only 5 minutes, but it felt like 20 minutes. Oh yeah, you only got a 5-minute segment, but it felt forever. Them battles felt forever because time moved different at that heightened state. If I use the metaphor like a The same way dancing, I use it like a boxer. You know, if you put a boxer in the ring, just like the last like 30 seconds probably feel like a whole hour went by. It's so many punches that they was dodging and throwing in that split minute, you know, like, or Jordan, let's just say like Jordan. It would be like 2 seconds left, but for him, he felt like he had all the time in the world to make the buzzer beater because he's moving in a different heightened state. So it's like when you're dancing, you're in a heightened state, not just the movement, but your awareness, tapping into it spiritually. Anybody that's around, they will also feel it too. You know, so that's why when people dance, you have people that come and say, you inspired me. Something about you made me cry. And it's an exchange. So that's why when you have rounds going back and forth, you have someone dancing, and then when they're done, this person supposed to either take that energy and raise the bar or dance with that. And that's when you have things like a train, which we call in Chicago Footwork, where the same side, one person dance, and then right while they're dancing, somebody else hop out on the same side, and it's connecting the flow of the energy. So right when somebody dance, somebody else hopped out. Somebody else dance, somebody else hop out. And it's like you don't see the stop of the energy. And that's basically the spirit, you know what I'm saying? So dance is a spiritual warfare, which I said earlier, and it's a battle within. Everything that you do is a reflection of the battle going on in your mind. Is going to reflect the mental walls. It's going to reflect where you are in your spirit, if you're at peace, and things that you're not at peace, which again, you're going to be fighting things that you're creating. So you don't think you're good enough. That's a mental fight that you're creating, because someone can say, man, you were amazing. And then you can shoot yourself in the foot and say, no, I wasn't. And it's like you're creating this shadow over yourself. So when you're dancing, you're shadow boxing yourself right now. But once you break out that stage, just know you're going to be able to flow even bigger than that. So dance is going to show you, if you don't think dance is spiritual, when you move, you're going to look very robotic. It's going to be a disconnect. Your movement will have no purpose. You're going to be moving with no purpose, no intentions, you know, no feeling, which that was a very popular thing in the hip hop and the dance community. These people are dancing with no feeling. Like that was something that they always say when they see somebody that's just like worried about steps. They're trying to move with steps and not move through the spirit of the step. That's when you start to understand, I need to know the history of this. TwanTwan, what is the history of the ghost? Why do y'all do this thing called the ghost? Where do it come from? So I can have an interconnection of what I need to be in tune with. Oh, you know what? AJ, you remember in church when the old folks used to catch the Holy Ghost? Oh, okay. I remember something like that in church. That had something to do with catching the Holy Ghost. Ghost. That's like a spirit, ghost. Oh, it's spiritual. You know, it's like, it's one of those things like, oh, duh, it go hand in hand.
The same thing, like, you know, the ghost started out, you know, as the move that it is, but, you know, it's just something that was created at the fly of the moment. Really, the Holy Ghost from that you catch in church, like how they was moving, is kind of, I mean, that's how I got the name, because of that, but it's just something that, you know, you create a move with the music. It's just really how it happens. Really not based off of seeing anything else or being somewhere and seeing something. It's just something that derived out of the moment with the music at that time. And then it just kind of spread from there. And it really spread it because of House-O-Matics. So like it came from the west side, us going to the warehouse and us, you know, seeing the movement on how it was there and us really bringing it back to the south side and putting our own spin on it. But you got to think about it. We had more exposure than anybody because we were everywhere. People, you know, like our movement in itself is what spread it, the dance culture, period, because of how it took off how famous we was and how everybody wanted to see what was going on, and the radio exposure, the news exposure, all that stuff. That's how it really started to get out. And then family members coming here, that's staying in Milwaukee, staying in Detroit, going to other places and taking what they seen here, there, and it just kind of went from there.
So, yeah, anybody that thinks dance is not spiritual or have no spiritual connection, you need to do your homework, because before Chicago Footwork event was even invented in Chicago, it already existed in spirit. You know what I'm saying? So it was already tribal cultures was doing these steps, and they're still doing it to this day, you know what I'm saying, in different places in the world. So it's just, you know, with another name, still in our heritage and DNA being shared.
Something that's beautiful that's happening, especially when we're talking about traditional style dancing that is coming from Africa, but it's so deeply embedded in Chicago culture and Chicago history. I'm born and raised Chicago all day, but my parents raised me in a community of people that was really caring about their culture and where they came from. And for me to grow up in it and now be a part of social dancing that's across the world and see the similarities, it is my mission to continue to be able to share. So I'm glad Battle Zone is not where African dance, but this type of energy, this cipher, where nobody outside can disturb what's inside of me. So the energy I feel is like sometimes it's overbearing because that's called spirit, y'all. So when you feel it and it goes up here, accept it, like love it. You fall, that is like God, like holding it, handling it, and please continue to love on yourself with that when you feel this music and you dance.
How do you feel footwork can work as a form of expression, transmutation, or healing trauma?
Definitely. I would say footwork used as an expression for like just, all right, the music part of it, we as producers use samples to tell stories that we may not have the voice to speak, or at that moment you're not ready to say it with your own voice, but you can find a sample that may have said those same words, and I could get off like something I'm feeling or like something I'm going through. I could put it in a song, play it in, you know, play it out to a room full of people, and they are in my space, in my head, how I'm feeling. And you could use that power, like, you know, either way. As far as the dance, like, I feel like we do go through a lot in Chicago. We do see a lot of trauma. We are close proximity to a lot of traumatic things, and then we use like footwork and coming together and dancing to like kind of leave all of that outside, to recognize that there are better things for us, there are better opportunities for us, that we don't have to choose the streets or violence. We don't want to be like, you know, we want to be a better example, and it give you like just access to that. Like you seeing people doing good or people trying to do good, and they're all coming together and make you want to like focus.
I feel that dance can and is an amazing tool for healing, transmutation, and for trauma. It is therapeutic. In my journey of Chicago Footwork, I have learned so much about life. I have learned so much about myself. I have evolved through many stages just by the dance alone. When I first saw Chicago Footwork, I was amazed by the physical steps. I was amazed by other people's reactions to it, mainly the girls. That was my first initial drive to doing Chicago Footwork. as I started learning more about footwork and started understanding bigger concepts and bigger reasons on the connection of dance, I started learning that the battles that we do is a mirror reflection of the battles that we're actually having inside of us. So it has nothing to do with the person in front of you. You know, in your beginner stages, it's like school. Like in your beginner stages of footwork, yeah, you're amazed by the steps. You're amazed by, did I beat this person? Like you're trying to be like I call it the raging bull. You know, it's like junior high. Like when you're at the raging bull stage, you're looking for a target to run over. You know, it's like, I want to be better than King Charles. Okay, I'm gonna train to get better than him. When I finally beat him, dang, who's next? I gotta find a new target. AG. Now I gotta train for AG. When I beat him, who's next? Until you start to understand that, oh, the only person I was really battling was myself and trying to be better than I was yesterday. And then in the midst of that, you may come to this dance with anger. You may come to this dance with sadness, with depression, with anxiety, with all these different things that may be attached to you. But when you start to dance, and when you truly dance, you can't hold on to that while listening to the music. It's either two things. You either gonna listen to the inner conversation in your head and you be off beat with the music, or you have to clear that out your head so that way you can hear the music and become one with the music. You can't do two things. You can't have two conversations going on at the same time. And then that's what starts to show mastery. You know what I'm saying? It's like a fighter trying to fight somebody with clouded thoughts. You're going to be always getting knocked out from a master that's with clear in the moment and they hitting you with precision, whereas you're fighting with anger, doing swings over your head wildly with no focus. So it's one of those things where you start to dance and you start to reach you start to break into a place of peace, and you start to have, I'm not as angry as I was before I came to this party. I feel more like woosah. Man, before I went to this party, I was ready to cuss my mama out. Now I'm ready to go home and give her a hug and let her know I love her. I ain't even worried about that no more. I'm too tired to even want to even call some BS. I'm too sweaty. Like it just bring you, it's a form of meditation, and it brings you back to and even if you're not even used to meditation or what meditation is, you're actually doing that. And some people reach a point when they practice so much and they're so in the moment that they reach a point of blacking out. And that blackout is where you reach another breakthrough to that center point of what I'm referring to. Some people get scared and come back, you know, like oh. And then some people, they actually surrender and they stay there. And in that moment, they can create the most amazing movements that they never practiced before. But being in that space, it inspires everybody that see them tapped in at that time and be like, what was that? It's like, I don't even know. That was pure spirit, yo. Like, I can't even repeat that. And they can't, like, mentally, they can't even repeat those movements because it wasn't done through the mind. It was done from the heart. And that feeling was genuinely organic from that moment to inspire those at that time. So it starts to break into different levels of, man, this is super dope. But what is it? You know, I was at this stage, you know, I'm just talking about a journey, like, okay, I'm a person that likes to know how stuff work. So I'm like, I'm going to study Chicago footwork. So that's actually kind of like how I started studying Chicago footwork and taking these mental notes of how everybody move, no matter, because I noticed one person can do one step and somebody else can do the same step and it could look totally different. And I'm like, but it's the same step. How come I can see it's the same step, but it's not even done the same way. What is that? And I started really observing and studying footwork to like a science and a math. And I started creating these notes, which I formulated into this thing that I call the Footwork Bible. And it was basically just my observations. Like, people was already doing what I'm talking about, but it wasn't organized. Like, people, when you ask somebody to teach you Chicago footwork back then, it was more like, do this, follow me. It wasn't no real explanation of why. You know, it wasn't like detailed. It was just like even the movements, they wouldn't even break it down. It was like you have to try to learn fast. Like, they're still doing it the full speed because they don't have the experience on how to teach. You know, it was just like somebody showed it to me this way, so I'm showing it to you this way. I'm giving it to you raw. You the one got to catch up. It's like, but I don't know. Yeah, like, follow the leader. So in a party, follow the leader. It's like the person doing the first step, they in the groove, but they're only gonna do probably like 2 counts, like a 1, and you gotta follow that. They're not gonna stop and come walk to the side of you, be like, okay, it's 1 and 2 and. Like, no, you better listen to the music and follow along. And if not, oh well, because we on to the next step. So it was like, oh my God. And there's no cameras at this time. So it ain't like, oh, I could just record and study it when I get home. I have no choice but to be at a heightened state of awareness and process all of these things that you're doing so I can remember it and practice it with memory in here, because I don't have no physical thing to watch. So I have no choice but to suck it up. Okay. That's the next step. And do it and try to get it in my muscle memory. So when I go home, I can remember the muscle memory, you know, because I don't have YouTube to slow it down and rewind it. No, if you're not there to see it, you're not going to have it. So it was fun. It was like crucial to be there present at the parties. And then on top of that, when you went to school the next day, you would hear about it the whole week. Like, it was like news.
Learning, like, first, how to connect socially through dance with other people, and understanding how that feels and how that communicates between each other. From there, learning how to speak to others. It has to be a starting point, but learning how to speak to others. Okay? Being respectful of the space with how you guys are just having simple conversation, enjoying that, and then figuring out the right time to try to express more, but practice on how to express. I'm very sensitive on how I express things to different people, and I don't feel like one way fits all. So, you know, exercising and practicing that, and maybe finding mentors and people who've experienced things before you, to dance with them and to connect with them and learn how to speak from their experiences, so that you can figure out the best ways to say what you're trying to say or connect with who you're trying to connect with. Just taking that journey brick by brick, step by step, to know how to communicate through this dance. Yeah. And feel it while you're doing it.
How do you feel we can best expand and grow with these Chicago house, juke, footwork, and queer, trans, Black, Indigenous, POC dance music cultures while honoring the disenfranchised communities they're rooted from?
I feel like we're already going in the right direction with working on developing the craft continuously in the spaces that we have, and like they're doing their job of making sure they have the best works, you know what I mean, like to present to the world. And then we have like the Bud Billikens and these dance downs and opportunities for generations to kind of come together and cross, and they see that it's positive, it's safe, and and then like they're able to learn what the kids and the youth are doing, and then you have like people that are coming up, OGs or newer guys that are coming up into like their OG status, they're teaching and bringing in more students, doing stuff with the community, and like just that collaboration, like and crossing generations and showing like that is good. Like I think that helped, and that's like always in the right direction. We might not have all the answers, you know what I'm saying, but just keeping it like community forward and like making sure that there's always space for the youth to learn and be able to like take this as an opportunity to not be in the streets.
When I say love, I'll use acronyms. Living one vibrational energy. When you understand everything is one thing, then there is no fight, there is no separation. You understand that this hand is still attached to the body of this hand. And with them working together, they can lift and do more things than one hand by itself. So understanding love, that will also have the cause and effect of unity. Unity comes from that, coming together. Building that is the only way, and the only way things should be, because you start to do endless amount of things. Things get accomplished. You have a lot of, it's a lot of people that can be helped and a lot of people that can be touched, but yet there are certain things blocking that connection. So when people surrender from whatever mental block or egos or things like that, you start to be open to new ideas. You start to be open to other new perspectives. And you start to actually see and be enlightened that actually those same perspectives are not so far different from yours. So when you look at when a person is looking at other cultures, they're looking at it from like a so tiny view. But once you actually in it, your views start to expand and be like, oh, I've been blind this whole time, So it would be the same where, me and Charles traveling. I use that for example. Never leaving my area as a kid, but then once I started traveling, I started gaining awareness of other cultures and starting to see that it's the same thing everywhere. It don't matter what title you put on it, it's still the same thing. It don't matter if you're doing different dance styles. When we went to see Krumpers, it was the exact same thing. The exact same energy, the exact same, maybe the music was just a little different and the body parts was being used differently, but yet it still is the same thing. So when you look at other cultures and things like that, it's a lot of similarities in all the cultures. And when people understand that, yeah, the differences may make you unique, but you're still a part of the one body, then people can move and use their uniqueness for the greater benefit of the whole instead of fighting against them.
I think communication is key. I think building relationships, from the ground up is key. I think people putting some of their guards down to give the opportunity to connect with new individuals that need to build these connections so that voices can be heard, so that what people are feeling can be heard. I think first learning how to speak the same language is important. So if Chicago Footwork is that language, or if the production is that language, then everyone learning how to speak some of that, so that when we're in the same room, we can identify each other at least in one way that is relatable across the board, so that when we express this is also who I am, it's being heard, it's being received, and then we take the steps forward from there. So I think like step-by-step communication is important. Being willing to do that with someone you didn't grow up with, or somebody that you don't know that well. Like that's how I just feel like that's the first steps. Like, come on, you know, there's no other way around that. Like, you know, you might have the most powerful, heartfelt situation that needs to be heard from the world, but like knowing how to speak in that frequency that the world can hear, I think is crucial to it. So like that's my say on it. I'm not a step skipper, so I would say that that's very important. And any way that I can help with that, I'll do it. Like, especially if it's like, well, let me show you some more footwork, or like connect you with the right people in the culture. Boom. So then you start building from there. And then boom, this thing that's been heavy on your heart, you find that perfect time to start speaking individually or publicly, like however it fits with the person. Yeah.
One way I could put describing the phrase footwork is life would be, a good example would be, why do you move, or why do you breathe? You breathe so you can stay alive, right? And when we dance, we reach a point of connection between why we are alive. We get the feeling of being alive. We appreciate the moment of being alive. And the movement starts to come out your body that starts to show the history of your life, the history of your experiences, the history of the people that you have met, or watched or seen, the things that you, and it don't even have to be just dance. I could relate to movies that I have watched, and like Freddy Krueger, for example, that's a horror movie that has nothing to do with dance. And while I'm dancing, things start bubbling up in me, memories, and I'm doing the Freddy hands with the claw against somebody. And it's like, where did that just come from? You know, like I didn't practice that, but the memory in my life of me watching Freddy Krueger with the claws came out in the movement. Or someone that's been watching Kung Fu movies and they're footworking and they make a Kung Fu style. You know, it's like, oh, you had people that were really like going through stuff in their life, and they were turning to alcohol and becoming young alcoholics. But then when they're dancing, it's showing a drunken style. Like, but they also was having those issues in life. So it was also a reflection of, dang, he be drunk, but yet this dance style is drunk too. Like it was like a reflection of their life. So you had people that was going through certain fights, and they was coming from certain side of towns where they had to fight, you know, but then in they rounds of dance, they're throwing punches. You know, they're throwing punches in their footwork, but it's showcasing the fight. You know, they're throwing guns in their footwork, but yet in their life, they may have seen that, or they could have experienced that. So you start to see the main connection of, dang, the dance and the things that happen in their life is one and the same. You know, it could be something that somebody heard, or somebody viewed, and you see the connection as one thing. So when it comes to dance's life, it could connect to the movements, and then on top of that, dance is life because it also connects to the spirit of the person. If you lack confidence, if you mental bash yourself, if you're always worrying about things in the past or stuff like that, you may find your body dancing behind the beat in a past sense. if you are excited, anxious, worried about the future or the outcome of the battle, like the battle ain't even happened and you're thinking about future stuff, your body will reflect past the beat, which will be dancing over the beat. But that may be in a dance setting, but then outside of the party in school, you actually have those same characteristics. When you're thinking about the test, whatever you did in the party, you may be experiencing that same stuff in class. You're having the same anxiety. You're thinking ahead of, oh man, what about this? Or shooting yourself in the foot. I'm not going to do good. So you start to understand that, hold on, what I was doing in the dance scene, I'm actually doing it in my life, So it's like dance is just a tool to help reflect what are you doing in your life, and you start to understand it's one thing. It's not two different things. So that's why dance is life, because you start to see the mirror reflection of what's going on in the soul. And when you start to see that, you start to think, is there some things that need readjusting? Is there some things that need changing? So when you dance and you find out you don't have the stamina to go longer than 30 seconds, do I need to start working out in my life? Do I need to start eating more healthy in my life? Do I need to stop drinking? Do I need to stop smoking? Maybe I need to be more disciplined. And the dance will reflect that discipline. So it's like the dance is going to reflect what you need to be doing in your life. And that's it. The dance never going to lie, because life never going to lie. The parties was our church. When we walked in, we paid our tithes by when we walked in the party. That was our tithes. So we pay our tithes at the door to get us in there. And then we'll be at the speaker. That's the bass. So if you like at church, you hear the doom, 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 doom. That was like our tracks. Doom, 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 doom. And we buy the bass. And you got some people catching the spirit. Like in church, you catch the Holy Ghost, but we in the party catching the Holy Ghost. Bah, bah. Some people aren't sure what they're doing, but they feel good. They feel happy, and it's one of those things where it's like they feel free. And after that, they're ready for the rest of the week. And then they need that recharge that next weekend to get them ready for the next of the week. Because during the week, you may get hit with some news that your friend got killed. You may get hit with the news that the light's about to get cut off. You may get hit with the news that your mama on drugs, So you're going to need that recharge to get you prepared and balanced for whatever life throws at you. So that way you don't do no wrong decision to flip. Because if you don't have that dance to be therapy, you're going to explode like a volcano. It's going to be too much for you to handle. And you're going to explode on your fellow brother or sister or anybody that's close to you. But dance is the thing it's a tool that lets you release some of that steam out like a kettle. So that way you don't explode and shatter and cut the people around you. And then you start to understand the mastery level of where I'm at now is life is dance. And when you get to the mastery level, you understand that the dance was just a tool to access that peace. But once the music stopped in the party, or once you walk off the dance floor, you're still dancing. So to us as a kid, we thought, man, we got to go to the party to stay happy. But then once we out the party, it started to go away. Because we don't hear the tracks no more. And we starting to hear life. We starting to hear people talk. We starting to hear people talking mess. So it's like, dang, now I'm starting to get depressed again. Now I'm starting to get upset. Now I'm ready to... But no. When you started dancing, you felt good, right? You felt peaceful, right? How can you maintain that harmony off the dance floor? How can you maintain that harmony when the juke music stops? You still alive because of music. Your heartbeat is the drum. Boom, 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 boom. When you in the party, boom, boom, boom. It's still a form of the heartbeat. So you constantly dancing. We will be dead right now if it wasn't for music. No heartbeat, flatline. You know what I'm saying? So me talking to you right now, I'm dancing. Dance is a connection to the stuff around you. We're dancing right now. You know, the person that's gonna listen to this at a later time, they gonna hear the harmony in my voice dancing. When you're in the party, you're listening to the harmony. You're talking back with your movements. Your movements is also communicating things that words may not. It's still language. You see? So it's like when you start to understand that, it starts to separate the mice from the man, or the boys from the man, I should say. Whereas it's a lot of people that learn dance and they still stuck in elementary and junior high, which is okay. That's where they at in their journey. Then you got those that has evolved to a mastery level. And then that is those that are very one with the music. That is okay. Then you have those that have ascended. When you have ascended, you are 100% the music, the dance, this present moment, and you're always on. Ain't no off. Like it ain't no, I gotta wait till the music cut on for me to feel it. I need a certain song to cut on for me to feel it. No, I feel it right now. I'm 100% ready for anything. I could go crazy to the wind blowing. You see what I mean? Because I understand that for me, whatever you think you need to be turned on, it's a mental wall. And that's when you start to see like, okay, anybody in front of me is a mirror reflection of me, and there is nobody for me to battle because they don't exist. So I can never lose. I can never lose a battle. There's no one for me to battle. And I will use this metaphor for any of the people that's listening. If I dance, if I empty my mental trash, I am one with the music. I am one with the music. There is no mental thought. I am one with the music. When you dance, if your focus is to beat me, you already lost. Because that means you're trying to beat the music. If I represent the music and you're trying to beat me, you're trying to beat the music. You should be trying to become one with me. If I'm one with the music and you're one with the music, we're one thing. We're not separate. It's no longer a battle. We're one thing. You can't fight yourself. So a lot of people, they see the physical and be like, I got to be better than that. And that's what caused them to be either too fast than the music or too slow from the music, depending on where their confidence level is. But when they become one with the music, we're dancing together. When it was follow the leader, they were dancing together. So it was like, hey, get with the rhythm. We're all in the party doing the same step together. You just gotta clear your head and just do it with us. Don't think you can't do it. Just do it. And once you clear the mental trash and you just try, you're like, oh, I got it. Oh, because you're going to flow with the fish. You know, like a school of fish. It's going to flow.
I feel like since it's always been a part of my life, like from like going all the way back to like parties after school, and like another part that I didn't tell you guys about, there were multiple like dance groups and dancers at my high school. So like before school would start in the mornings, we would have like a common area where everybody would kind of be in before school started, maybe like 20 minutes or so. And there were battles happening in the commons. So this is like 07, 08. I was terrible, like, but that was what I was seeing, and I was all for it, and I was gravitating towards it. So like, it's always been there in different facets. We do express ourselves, like our history, and like in the sense of where you are, or where you are geographically in the city could dictate like the group that you're in and the style that you end up like dancing, you know, with or presenting. and that also could speak to like that entire community or side, like struggles and the things that they might have like gone through or persevered through, what they're up against, and we able to kind of bring it together and like have peaceful like showcases, like in a healthy way, like getting aggression out, but it don't always go that way. But like that I feel like maybe in a sense you able to kind of show where you come from, what you've been through, and how you like able to still remain like strong, just based off the way that you dance and what group you in.
How can we preserve our history and truth? Truth is truth, so it will always be, you know, lies are the things that have a, I should say, expiration date. You know, it's only so long that a lie get caught up to the truth. So when you're walking in truth and you're speaking in truth, everything will align with that. You don't have to go back, you don't have to double back. So those that are not trying to align with the real truth of what has happened in the culture, people that's trying to create their own ego version of the culture or ego path of the culture, it has no way but to come back to the pure source. And so when it comes to the pure source, it's infinite. I did not create anything here. Things that I do have existed before me, and it's one of those things that these movements is in our DNA, it's in our spirit. So when it comes to the truth, you start to understand that everybody has a connection to the truth, and it's about if you're willing to be open to it. It's just some people try to fight it. So when it comes to that, it's like, yo, when you line with the truth, you understand that these movements are being done in countries that don't have internet and was being done years ago in the motherland. You know, other cultures was doing fast kicks, you know, and they're celebrating ceremonies or spiritual ceremonies. So you start to understand that it's not based off a location. It's not based off a person. You know, it's just that same universal harmony of love and peace, and that's real truth. So when you align with that, it's like, okay, I acknowledge the humans that have done these movements that led to this point. Everything we do is a wavelength of events, you know? So when people try to fight on who started what, who started, when you get past the ego, the work will speak for itself. So it's like, I personally don't even have to preserve by mouth. I have preserved through other vessels. So there are other vessels. I can be gone tomorrow. There are other vessels that is showing the truth through their work. They are a living, walking testimony of the history of the ones before me. I'm a walking testimony of the ones before me. So that's real true. When you start to see how it inspires others, how it inspired other generations, how it brings people together, the same way House-O-Matics inspired Chicago. Like, people was inspired by them. Oh, I want to start a group now. I want to dance now.
I have to point out, I just got to point out my big bro real quick. TwanTwan from House-O-Matics, you know what I'm saying?
House-O-Matics, our main sauce was to do stuff that was different. That's how we stood out. Everything that we did, it was different from what everybody else was doing. So that was kind of like our main thing, is to do stuff that ain't nobody else doing. The butterfly dance, we made that up. Like, it's a lot of dances that came out that we made up, you know. We was just innovative like that, you know. But if you didn't know how to dance, you couldn't get in House-O-Matics. It wasn't one of those things. It was kind of like, we was like the 90s Bulls. Like, you can't get a part of this team and you ain't one of the coldest in the city. I mean, we made it so popular that, like, people just wanted to do, like, because of all the components that came with it, like, it was just like, but when you think about it, the music and the dance, like when you see it with energy and it's done the right way, it gravitates you towards it. It brings you to it. Even if you don't know nothing about it and you see it, you be like, that's dope. So, you know, you got that impact along with the presentation that we brought with it that kind of took it to different heights. Yeah, and then, you know, it was something positive too, like, because, you know, you either was in a game or you wasn't in the game. Like, that's what was going on back then, you know. So for us to have that different outlet as an alternative of not being in a game was awesome. Like, you can do something positive, you know, look good at doing it, you know, and then be a part of a group so you're not caught into the game life, you know. So that was a big thing too. But we had sanction because we had members that was in our group that was part of the game. So, like, we had sanctions. So now, y'all can't mess with them. So it was security as well. It was both. It was like, okay, they are part of the group, so now y'all can't mess with them. Now you can move through the neighborhood. You could go where you want to go because you got protection now. Because they made it so nobody mess with you. Because at first, they see you dancing or doing anything queer or anything like that, they on your heels. So, because they would say if you dance, you gay. Like, that's what they would say, you know. Y'all gay as hell. That's their first word. And so that's what starts to happen with the other groups in the other neighborhoods with the gangs. Same thing kind of happened with them, you know. You had a few members that was a part of the dance group that was in the gang, and then they got sanctioned too. But then this is where the coalition happened. So the dance groups from the east couldn't come to the parties because they was in a different gang. So we decided that this is a culture now. So it ain't gang related, even though it's different gangs in the group, but this is a culture. So that's how we made the coalition. So now the west side is able to come to the south side because the west side can come to the south side because they're a different gang from the south side. So when we did the coalition, it basically, we did a peace treaty amongst the groups with the different gangs to say, hey, we now gonna allow passage for y'all to come on the south side. Because most of the south side is GDs. The east side was Stones, and then the west side was like Vice Lords. So, but the GDs basically was the dominant gang in the city. So when we gave sanction to say, okay, it's okay for the dance groups to come, then we made the coalition, and that's how all of the groups were able to start moving around through the city without getting messed with. So now all the dance groups are able to go to the parties now. They're able to compete, battle, do all that at all the parties now. At first they couldn't do that. They only could go to parties in their neighborhood. And our parties was the biggest parties, and they couldn't, some of the groups couldn't come to them, and the ones that did come to them, like I said, they had to leave early before the party was over so they wouldn't get beat up. So when we did the coalition, the parties even got even bigger because now everybody outside of the neighborhoods could come now.
What does dance mean to you?
Dance to me, in this lifetime, is freedom, liberation, rainbow effect, the rainbow bridge. It will be medicine for the world if you let it. Shapeless, uncontainable, powerful, the fountain of youth. Yeah. Release. It's everything. Yeah.
How would you explain the effect systemic housing segregation in Chicago has had on Chicago house and footwork culture throughout several generations?
The segregation and the housing has played a huge part in Chicago. not only just in the different dance styles and why people were dancing, but it also played a huge part on people mental health. You know, like you have people forced in these living conditions that is lacking resources, that is lacking things to thrive, safety, not clean, and all of these different living conditions that will cause anxiety, anger, irritation, and it caused more layers to be added on a person's development. So when a person is going through life living in these type of situations, it will cause them to not always, I should say, operate at their full level or capacity. So if you're constantly got your shoulders up, you're in stress, you maybe can't focus in school because you're so tense because of your living environment, compared to someone else that's living someplace where they don't have to worry about that. They can go to school focused. They could go to school not stressed, clear. So when you have a student that's causing certain things in the classrooms, disruptions and things like that, they may have anger built inside. They may have depression built inside, and then they let it out on a fellow student. When you have that, that's just like a example of a younger person. But let's just use some of the older people in the community, whereas, you know, you have things where not only these living conditions were not fit to even live in, you also fund and supply these conditions with things that can destroy the people inside, which would be drugs and guns. So these people that's in these conditions, they have no boats, they have no money for an airplane to fly to get this stuff, to get this product, to get these type of weapons. So it's really sad, because it starts to reveal a bigger picture that there's people planning the destruction of others, I should say. And it's not fair, and yet we use the tool of dance to balance our spirits within, due to what others are trying to break in us. So it's one of those things where you use dance as that tool to connect, because you start to see the chaos outside. You know, when you have when you're able to be in a living situation and you have train tracks and you have these trains dropping off these crates and they're open with guns and they're just stopped on the track, and then you have people that see that and it's like, oh, it's just free guns just dropped off here with drugs. Like, you have people that can't really have the resources to make money or job opportunities in their environment. They have to go so far to get a good job or so far to make ends meet, whereas you put in this poison right here to say, hey, you know. And it's one of those things that affected a lot of the housing too, where you had people selling drugs and things like that in these buildings, but yet those people that's using these products, they are mothers, they are fathers, so they have kids that's being affected by what's going on. So it's kind of like a volcano ready to explode. And so when some of these housing projects got knocked down, then now those people that was affected are now in the general population, and it's like spread now.
See, as footworkers are born into living conditions with dance and music. are the movements that saved our lives. House music is the mother that birthed us, but juke music is the mother that moves us. Now follow me and watch me move. Watch me juke just like my mama. Footwork through the trauma. Footwork through the trauma. But I can't breathe just like my mama. My mother always told me I'll be short of breath. She said, baby, I'm sorry, but at times you cannot breathe. All because you was born in a polluted all-gill garden where waste management showed total disregard for black life. Right across the street from your garden, your city, Chicago, burns its waste and trash, and all that pollution runs right through your water pipe into your Kool-Aid jar. Imagine being born into a family where no one can breathe, where prednisone, albuterol inhalers, and nebulizers are your best friends. When you ride down the Bishop Ford and you go across 131st Street, you can smell the stench of asthmatic, black, cancerous death. In 1991, my mother was diagnosed with an enlarged heart in one lung. And for 11 years, she was on 24-hour oxygen until she passed away in 2018 from congestive heart failure. Every time I dance, I'm reminded of the environmental racism that happened to me and every family in all-gill gardens. Footwork through the trauma. Footwork through the trauma. But I can't breathe. Just like my mom.
It's like a real human project, experiment, you know, and I can't even off the top of my head think of the exact name, but it was also done on rats before it was done on people. So the whole housing development, the whole concept of people being packed living was experimented on rats first, and then they did tests to see how the rats reacted in living conditions that was enough water, enough food, enough space. They all was cool. Then they had another experiment where those same rats was put in a confined living space, lack of water, lack of food and resources, and they begun to either fight, attack each other, rape each other, and do all types of things that they wasn't doing in the other conditions. So when you see that, and then you know the true that everything is connected, you will understand, okay, if I do this to rats, I can do this to a human, because we all connected. It's a no matter how minor or major, it's a as above, so below, it's a reflection. So you do that same thing, it's gonna apply energetically, you know. So it's one of those things that none of us asked for these type of living conditions, and it just seemed like it's one of those things that I just feel like if it wasn't for dance being a tool, I speak for myself, I probably would not be alive. You know, like I personally probably would not be alive if it wasn't for dance to be able to tap into something greater, to be able to see a bigger picture. Because at the time, I was not living in the housing projects, but my mother worked at the housing projects in my suburbs. So I was able to see what the other youth had to go through. And it was one of those things that it was just like unbearable to hear about parents raping their kids and the kids don't have food. And it was just a lot of stuff that was just like, holy cow. Like, it just made me so appreciative. Even though we didn't have much, it was just like, I was just appreciative of the little that we had. Like, I'm not experiencing that type of trauma, but just to hear that still was trauma. So it was kind of like, we all are affected in some way, shape, or form. Even if we didn't get the bodily harm, by it affecting a fellow brother or sister, it still was like it was done to us because we all connected. So these housing conditions and things like that, your living environment and your living space is very important to your mental health. If somebody living in a cluttered house, you probably will feel discombobulated. But once you start cleaning your house and start smelling good, light some candles, you probably feel like, I want to relax. Oh man, I feel good. You know, so just imagine people cluttering your space on purpose, not with your permission, and they're forcing you to live in filth and violence.
What thrives me is just seeing the development and the growth of interest, of the spark of interest, of curiosity, of openness that an individual has or an individual gains when someone from a different space shares something with them and vice versa. It's just really amazing. And someone told me that traveling is like the best education. If two people from different places can meet and share and educate each other, you know, and they're better because of that, you know, I feel like seeing that and witnessing that in person is everything. It's like, it's gems, it's enriching. So it's like, I've seen that for a while now. And I've proven that like people from different cultures can all help each other based on the stuff that they've learned that might be different than what I've learned. And Chicago Footwork became that glue. Creation became that glue, that bridge to bring people together. So that that became more and more powerful, and it became more and more of a responsibility. But like, I'm meeting all these wonderful people, and yeah, it's just amazing. Like, and they're really interested. They're genuinely interested. They're genuinely like committed and down to like help and build. They're learning about the struggles. They're learning about the history and the roots and the culture before them. And they're choosing to be a part of this. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I choose to be a part of their culture as well.
What drives me to pushing dance and being a dance mentor? I would just say love and truth. And I really would just want to use example like the sun. It's like the sun gonna shine regardless. It's like the sun is gonna give life to everything it's around. It's not even gonna try. It's whether you give it a title or not, it's gonna be that. So whether I get the title of a dance instructor or anything like that, I'm just gonna be emitting love and emitting creativity, and those that need to receive it will receive it at that time, just like the sun rays. So it's like, you got some people that blind from the sun, you got some people that open their arms to the sun. So I feel like when it comes to truth and when it comes to love, dance is a mirror reflection of that. It's a tool of that, and I am one with that. So if anybody try to get aligned with that, it will align them with people that's radiating that. So it's like, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. When somebody needs the light, the sun will appear. So it's like that. So I feel that that is just one of my purpose, to be a lighthouse here, just as many others. So we have to light the fire and be the fire in ourselves to light the flame in others, because everybody got a fire in them, and they get that inspiration when they see the fire lit in someone else. It reminds them of the fire that may be dim in them, if that makes sense. So I look at it like that. So as being helping somebody with dance, metaphorically, I'm just helping you with life. You know, so it's like, if someone comes to me about some dance, I'm gonna reflect them back within themselves, and they're gonna get a bigger view on their life. So it go hand in hand.
Now the music And like the act of creation itself is what's driving me, just to continuously be better. That's been the thing that I'm like focused on, like learning like deeper techniques and just trying to like continuously be a student, or just always striving to be a student, and realizing like I'm not going to be a master, but I can always be like learning about this and have fun with that.
What is the importance of Havoc Picnic? Could you explain why it was so special that the dancers from the West Side came to dance at Havoc Picnic last year in 2023?
I did like a big demonstration at an event that we got called the Havoc Picnic, and I wanted to showcase the togetherness, because most of the generation only know battle, 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 battle. I must beat this person. Oh no, I lost, I won. That's not the only thing this culture is about. The unity is what it was about. The groups, the family, the togetherness, that's what made people come, because people was having crazy backgrounds, and that unity made them feel secure, safe, and gravitate. And by having that, it's, again, therapeutic. You start to be in a metamorphosis where you start to become like a butterfly coming out of a cocoon that you probably been living in. So first off, the Havoc Picnic it's a very crucial element in the culture, but the Havoc Picnic is a metaphor for the sign that love exists. Unity exists. So the Havoc Picnic is just a sign to remind people love exists, unity exists, peace exists. No matter what you may be going through in your life, don't ever forget this feeling that you have access to 24/7. A lot of people are going through a lot of things. When they go through certain things in their life, it puts mental walls, and I should say layers, on a person, to the point where they forget they have peace. So they operate through, I should say, irritation, through anger, depression, anxiety in their life. When they come to the Havoc Picnic, it's a place where you can remove some of those layers, and you could be like, this was a breath of fresh air. You're getting reminded of something that was already in you, but you haven't felt this way in so long because you've been on guard in the streets, and you got to watch your back, and you hear about so much negativity stuff. But it was to create a place of peace that we all can create. Not just us. We all can create this space of peace where we can bring our family. We could bring your grandma, your mother, your father, and they can all come see, and they all can just leave all their troubles behind for one day and just enjoy the moment. Whether it's happiness, whether it's food, whether it's dance, whether it's the music, whether the kids can play in a bouncy house, kids can be kids. Like these kids don't even have a chance to be a kid, or to really play with other kids, without being on a device. A lot of people not used to having family there. And a lot of people not used to having support. So when the Havoc Picnic I'm gonna just say previous years, some people are not used to even having support or having somebody there to want to watch them. So they're used to doing this in a circle. The circle closed because they think it's just them. It's just us. So we skip it. We don't they're not even consciously aware that it's some kids that really, really came here to see them. It's some adults that really, really here to see them. It's some city officials really here to see them. It's some sponsors here that really want to pay and help them. But they have for years and years of not having that support or nobody willing to watch, they think it's just them. So so the Havoc Picnic is a place that not only is to give awareness to footwork, but it's also to break down mental walls of those that's been in this culture for years, to know that it's a bigger picture now. It's always been a bigger picture, but y'all didn't have the resources. Now we have the resources. Now I'm trying to open people awareness. So when it comes to the Chicago Footworkers, the Havoc Picnic shows them there's people that support you now. There's always been people that support you, but it probably just wasn't the space for them to come. So maybe the event probably was too smoky with weed or something like that. And it's like, I can't bring my mom here, you know. But you can bring them now to the picnic. You can bring your kids to the picnic. Oh, I ain't bringing my kids to that event because it's too much smoke. Oh, well, there's no smoke at the Havoc Picnic. You can bring them now. So a lot of the stuff that people had to make them not is like, oh, shoot. Okay. Oh man, I can't go to this event because I don't got enough money. Oh, it's free. Oh man, what about, whatever you could say, what about, man, I may be hungry. It's free food. There's no excuse now. You see what I mean? So like all the excuses that can hold somebody back that I experienced in the culture, it was people that really wanted to go places. They just didn't have the money. Man, I wish I could go to the party. Man, I'm trying to scramble up some change. I gotta go. I feel suicidal. I gotta get to this party, man. Can you leave me some money? Like, it was a lot of things that held people back from getting that type of healing. So I wanted to make sure it was a space that ain't no excuse on why you can't come get some healing, that you could come experience some love, that you could come get some peace, you could come learn. You could come get some free food. Your kids could get a book bag with school supplies. You know, you could come meet. You never left your block. You never left from a 5-block radius, but now you can come here and meet somebody already across the ocean, from Japan, from Russia to Mexico, LA, Atlanta, Canada, wherever, all in one spot, in person. And they're here and they really want to meet you. You know, it's like any opportunity that we have or have gotten, we're bringing all the opportunities in one pot. So that was another excuse. You know, it's like, oh, I can't, I don't have the same opportunities as this person because I can't travel there. That's fine. All of those people, we're going to bring them here. You don't need a passport now. You wasn't able to get your passport? That's fine. We brought them here for you. Now you can network for yourself because they're going to be here. Use your time wisely while they're here. You see what I mean? So it was just one of those things that the Havoc Picnic is like a big critical part because it's knocking out so much stuff. This is another important part of the Havoc Picnic because it stands for so much stuff. Unity. Yes, I know unity of people from around the world come in, different crews, but I'm talking about unity on another level. And when I speak about this type of level, I mean supporting each other. So the first part I was talking about was other people supporting, like people outside of the culture supporting. The people in the culture are not used to supporting each other because they're used to battle mode, where it is, this is my opponent, not my business partner, or not. It's just like you got to understand, okay, yeah, we battle on the dance floor. But if you throw an event, I'm here to support that. What do you need? You know, so when it comes to like the Havoc Picnic, I would love to use my big brother TwanTwan, for example. Man, little bro, you know, he's from House-O-Matics, all right? Yo, man, you know what? I like to send a donation to help the picnic. I got some waters, you know. That's a big help, you know what I'm saying? You don't have to do that, but the bigger picture is helping the whole culture. You know, you have other people, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to Ronnie, you know, with the restaurant. And it was like, they donated food. You had somebody from the west side of Chicago. He even came out and cooked. You know, it was just like, okay, I want people to see this type of support. other footworkers doing their part to support an event for everybody. So it was like this person this dancer, she brought bouncy houses. And it was like, oh, okay, this dancer did this. It was like each different crew started doing something together. So it was like a community event, not just, I can't do all that by myself, you know? So none of us can do any of this type of stuff by ourselves. We need the unity of everybody. So the picnic is a representation of it can be done. People, oh man, people don't like to work together. What you mean? The Havoc Picnic happened. It was multiple people that helped that happen. So it's showing you it can be done. All these years, we've been showing it can be done. Last year, for the first time, Westside got inspired and was like, we're gonna throw a picnic. Yes, that's what we want. We're trying. The whole point of the Havoc Picnic is to inspire other people to do family events too. We don't want to be the only family event. You gotta wait once a year for a family event. No, this should inspire you to start something so we can create that and then this. So when the Westside did the picnic, we was like, yes, what do y'all need? You know, we need waters, Okay, cool, we're gonna bring that. So we all came out for the Westside picnic. It was an amazing turnout. It was actually the first picnic of August. So our picnic is the second week of August. It's always after the Bud Billiken Parade. Theirs was the first, within like the first week. So we went to the Westside picnic to support, to show them like the South Side, we're all Chicago. I don't care, South Side, West Side, North, we're under one thing, Chicago. So on the dance floor, yeah, we may battle, but this bigger than a battle. You know, our battle is showcasing unity, and it was amazing. It was all love. So when they saw that, they was like, man, we about to come out south. Now, mind you, it's like a different country. Like the West don't usually come out south. The South don't usually go out west. It's so far. So what they think. So it's like, we're going to come out there. So for us, it's like, this is what we've been wanting all these years. You know, so for them to come out there, it was monumental. Like they already told me, like, if we going to come out there. So I was like, oh yeah? So I told my member, like, yo, I want you to get some fireworks, because this is going to be like the first time in a long time that the South and the West OGs are going to be together. We're going to shoot some fireworks because we want people to know this is a real celebration, you know, and when they come out here, we're going to show that. So when the OGs came out at the Havoc Picnic, one, it was a big learning experience for everybody, not just the new people in the culture, but the OGs too, from my generation, to get a chance to see what we couldn't see. Because when we started dancing, they was going off the scene. So we'll maybe see, for example, we may go to the West Side and see some of the West Side OGs, but they may not all be at the same event. So you may only catch one or two. But then you go all the way out south, you may catch one or two, but never so many in one spot. So the Havoc Picnic was a display of why we do what we do, the origins of what we do, having different crews from Main Attraction, from House-O-Matics, from, and you had people from U5U out there. Man, it was just K59. It was just a lot of people out there. 187. So it was just super dope just having these OGs all together. They demonstrated exactly what I wanted, which they organically was going to do, which was they showed unity. So it was like when one person danced, the other person was dancing with them. It didn't matter if they was on the opposite side or not. They was all becoming one with the music. And then you'll see three of them doing the same move. Then you'll see other people. Then it just turned into, oh, Skip, we're going to do Follow the Leader. And the whole park just doing the same move, which was like, oh my God, this is like so historical right now. And you could see the young generation was so confused because they're like, wait, what's going on? Well, I never experienced this before. It was like, yes, that's what I'm trying to, that's the whole point. We want to show y'all this is stuff y'all lacking. And if y'all really do Chicago footwork, then that means you need to have this element in you too, on how to be connected to the fellow dancer. It's not just against the dancer. So the Havoc Picnic was just a big display of unity, love, peace, and a breath of fresh air, I should say. So those things are like diamonds that most people may not discover. And when your time is there, you will know, because dance gonna take you there. You know, like dance took me to this point. So it's like, I didn't know what I'm talking about right now when I was trying to get the girls. You know, I was looking at the physical part of it, like, oh man, that's cool. Not knowing that dance was gonna get me to this type of awareness, like, damn, I learned all this through dance. So anytime I see somebody dance, every movement they do is them telling their life, like their life and where they at this moment. If somebody got some anger or something going on, you can see it through the movement. You can see like, dang, they thinking, they going through something right now. Because you can see the static in their movement. You can see when somebody got something they gotta get off. You can see when somebody too timid and too shy. But if you timid in a circle, reflection of that is you're gonna be timid in other aspects in your life. It may be at your work, it may be with family, maybe with your boyfriend, girlfriend relationship. It's gonna shine. Whatever you do on the dance floor shines in your life. It's a reflection of your life, if that makes sense. Again, I studied footwork, so it was things that I observed with footwork. One of the things that I observed was, okay, I'm in this juke party and only adults here is the guards. You know, like I see the guards here, you know, to make sure there's no fights, but it's no parents in here, you know. Now remind you, we're in a party, so footwork was only a certain segment. Another segment was the juking part. So you got boys humping on girls, which of course a parent be like, get off my child, you know. So I can understand that part. But with me saying this was, you have all these talented young people in Chicago that's doing this amazing dance. They're very talented amongst their peers, but yet you don't have the family support, whereas it's not a family event. So it's like, your mom and dad not really gonna be in the party at the King of the Circle to see you really get down. We know, but your parents wouldn't know that. So you got these people that's been doing this style that they parents probably had no idea really how good their child was dancing. Unless you was like in like a dance group and you had like performances, like talent shows, and you know, like in that statue, like if you're in a dance group, yeah, your parents may come to the show like that, but I'm mostly referring to the ones when the battle scene came and the Chicago Footworkers was just doing mostly footwork. They wasn't really performing with it. You had to be at an event like BG's. Or shout out to Walla, he actually recorded and put it online. But my thing was, even when he was recording and putting it online, there was no parents at the Walla cam. That's my baby, you know? So it was still just the youth. So I'm like, man, it's just nothing I could bring my mom to that she can just see what I was doing. You got some parents think their child is doing something negative in the streets. Oh, you was going all night. You was out in the streets. You was doing this. No, I was really just dancing. I really was just at practice. I really was just at somebody's basement learning. Nah. You know, and you had people really sneaking out the house to go dance because they was on punishment for coming in too late the last weekend. You know, so it was just one of those things that it was like, I want to also have a space for parents to see what they, even though we all grown now, but at least get a chance to see this is what we was doing all those years. What inspired me to even start the group Havoc was first, it was a community center that I went to in Chicago Heights. And so at this community center, it gave us this environment to be more like a family in our community with all the other young people there. I was also, this was probably like 2002. So I was still like in high school, going there, meeting other youth. And so when I started learning Chicago Footwork, I was starting to show the people at the center the things that I was learning. So I was sharing with them the things that I was learning from my friend at my high school. So when we started Havoc, it was basically the people that I was sharing my journey with at the time. So we were already like a community, like a little family, learning different things about life, how to be a man, how to respect our elders, and just learning a lot of things about how to be an entrepreneur at a younger age. So we had this type of bond of staying out of trouble, doing our work in school, and learning footwork was an element that got added into that. So it was like, you know what? We already was part of this community center and we're dancing, but in this type of dance culture, people have groups and they have titles and they name means something. So out in our area, we had groups like Panic, Triple Phase, Chaos Posse, Final Chapter, Total Impact in the South Suburbs, and things like that. So we was hearing these names and was like, we need a name that's like, it'll make somebody think twice, you know? So my little bro, Rob, he was looking in the dictionary, you know, he found the word chaos and was like, it's already a group called Chaos. So it was like, oh, Havoc. He was like, hey, we can use the word Havoc, you know? So that's how we got the name, like Havoc. But then we also wanted to use a meaning behind it. So we broke down the letters, so it stands for having all victory over competition, which we end up still saying challenges. So whether competition or challenges in your life, you got to overcome it. And those was the principles that we was learning at the community center. So we kind of like built the foundation of the community center in our dance group. So when we started Havoc, it was off of that. And then we basically made our first appearance at the Markham Skater Rink. And that was like, at the time it was me footworking and basically my students, basically. So I only had like, Rob, that's dope. It was probably like 4 footworkers with me. But our community center went, so it looked like 40 people. Like we told everybody, like, yo, we about to go out to this skating rink. Everybody gonna wear on white tees, and Pierre is gonna like paint up the shirt. So we was very creative of creating our own outfits, so that way we could look like a unit. So when we walked in, you see 40 people walking in, and it's like, where did this group just come from? But it's only 4 people that actually really dance. So people really didn't know, like, it's really only like 5 people that really footwork, but they look swole. I want to be a part of that. So by us walking in, and another thing too is, at the time I found out my cousin Larry was actually a top DJ named DJ Solo at the time. So he actually made a track that had our name in it, which usually at that time you had to be somebody to get your name on the track and to get it played in the party. So you have a group of these young kids 40 deep off like a field trip, and then the DJ is playing this track, and these groups that's been around forever, and they're like, this track cold, but who is Havoc? And then you just see 40 people throwing up the sign, like. So it was one of those things that was like, it was a very powerful time where Havoc came into the picture, showing unity at a time where, when I was learning Chicago Footwork, groups was dismantling. So it was a lot of groups breaking up. So a lot of groups that I wanted to join, which was Triple Phase, Panic, Chaos Posse, like all the groups that I named was groups that I was hoping that I could try out to be in, but they broke up before I could do like a audition. So I ended up starting my own group with no group experience. So most footworkers, when they start a group, they come from someplace. You know, like they either have an origin story. Oh, I started in this group and then I did my own thing. Or I didn't have any of that. I didn't get the luxury of having the experience of what a group's supposed to consist of. It was like, I'm just using the things that I'm learning from this community center of how we should be just as men, like young men. But when it comes to the battle scene, I have no idea whatsoever how it goes. So we was like learning as we went. But just showing the unity is what gravitated a lot of people to join. Now, one thing about that I could say too is that I would like to add is that at the time of these groups breaking up, some of those members from those groups still wanted to dance, even though their group did not exist. So by them seeing us being unified, that made them join Havoc. So on my behalf, I was really blessed to get people that were in groups to come join. And that's how I was able to learn how to run a group, by listening to what made that group broke up, what worked, what didn't work. Like, okay, I'm learning from my members, like, okay, so when you was in triple phase, it was like this, but the leader was talking to the female in the group, and that caused the group to disband. Okay, nobody in the group can talk to each other. You know, like when we in a group, we got to stay on business, because that was like one of the main downfalls, relationships at the time. So I was just taking notes of that. So Havoc was just basically like a unity of, I want to say, just the youth at the time. You know, it was kind of like Chicago Footwork groups was like families. And if your group broke up, you was like an orphan. Like you didn't have that security in the street or that support system. So you gonna run to another group or another place that you could call home and feel secure in. So that was kind of like, yo, I'm picking up the stragglers. Like, okay. And by me doing that, I think that's what made Havoc really powerful at such a strong time, because each crew had a specific style. But Havoc having multiple crews, it formed into like everybody doing their own thing, where it was like you don't really know what Havoc style is, because you're gonna dance different from the next person, because your story is different. And I think that's what grew Havoc to be different, where when somebody come to Havoc, we don't make you dance a certain way. We find out who you are, what's about you, and we find your spirit, and we kind of like bring that out, where it's like, oh, your background is in hip hop. Okay, when you come to Chicago Footwork, you don't have to live two different lives. We're going to merge it as one thing and teach you how to use your hip hop background with footwork. And your style is going to be totally different from anybody that has ever done it, because you know something that the other people before you didn't know. You know, so that's kind of like was what we kind of molded Havoc to be when we started recruiting people from different neighborhoods, from Dalton, Markham, Harvey. Everybody had a certain different style or different background, and Havoc made a person feel comfortable to be them while still being in a family setting, while learning stuff about life, if that makes sense.
What inspired me to start creation was being a part of different dance groups and being excited for all the experiences that I had in these different dance groups, and imagining my friends and me like making our own, pretty much, especially since I loved the qualities of the different dance groups, but I didn't feel like the dance groups were going to last. I feel like the dance groups were more in the moment and doing some of the stuff that they were doing. It just felt like a really high energy, spontaneous in the moment, you know, very talented individuals, but I don't know, I just didn't feel like, I felt like there was things that I could represent if I was leading my own group, even though I was a kid. And me and a couple of my friends, we all agreed, so we started something just for fun called Creative, and it turned into something bigger. So I always felt like creation was gonna expand, like above and beyond people's expectations, because I had a spiritual calling when I was working at Popeye's Chicken at age 16, 17, to, you know, to know how much power this crew and this journey could wield. So I knew that I was supported spiritually on this journey, and I knew that I was always a people person, and that I'm a gatherer, and I tested that since I was a kid, teen in high school, going to 4 different high schools, and just making friends everywhere I go. So yeah, I knew I was open and up for it, and it was gonna happen. If people gave me a chance to connect and build relationships, I was gonna do it.
What got you started on your journey with music and footwork culture?
I would say my environment showed this sound to me. It showed the community and dance to me through like going to parties, and like when I was in high school, even before high school, going to the skating rink, Markham skating rink with older cousins and not really knowing exactly what's going on, but like hearing the music, seeing battles, like people like DJ Row or DJ B-Man or these different DJs were playing this music. The whole entire thing was like foreign at the time. I probably was about 11, 12. So yeah, they're juking at that time. They're like actually doing the dance, like the grinding dance. So I was too young. I wasn't interested in that. I was like, well, you know, what are they doing in this circle though? And it just kind of always been around and lingered until maybe I was about 16. And then my neighbors, like on my block, they were already in dance groups. One is in Creation, one is in Terror Squad. So like it was already like around me, and I just needed to like see it.
What got me started was a talent show in 6th grade, my first 6th grade. I watched a 6th grader, a 7th grader, and a 8th grader doing a dance talent show, a dance competition. And this dude named Tristan, who lived across the street from my grandma's house, he was killing it, and all 3 of them were moving their feet real fast. So I'd never seen it. I'd never seen it before that day, and I was blown away. So I was asking everybody, like, "Yo, like, what is this?" You know, and everybody was like, "Oh yeah, this is footwork. This is footwork." So my life was changed after that. I was doing sports. Of course, I had dancing and music in my family, in my household. Picnics, barbecues, all that type of stuff, but no technical training, you know, and I knew I was up for it. I knew I was capable to do it. I was 13, 14 years old, and I wanted to so bad. So I wanted to know what this life was like, and I wanted to be about that life, full out.
What originally got me started was previously I didn't have any dance knowledge, no dance background. I was just book smart, really good with basketball and art, drawing, painting. I could draw anything that I see at the time, and I thought that was going to be my way out the hood. Like, oh, I'm probably play basketball, you know, get a scholarship for college. And so in the year 2002, I'm a junior in high school, and I'm in the lunchroom, and I see a lot of people running to one side of the cafeteria, I originally thought it was a fight. And so I actually got up to like, I want to see the action. And when I see people stand on tables to like peek in, and so like I stood on like the lunchroom table like to see what was going on because there was so many people crowded. And when I looked in, I just see feet flying and I see girls screaming and I see people cheering, and I'm like, what is this? You know, like I thought I'm about to see a fight, and I'm seeing a dance battle, you know, which I never saw before either in person. So I'm like, this is kind of cool, but I'm actually liking the way the ladies, you know, like how this is getting the ladies' attention. I want to get to know more about this. Luckily for me, the person dancing was actually in one of my study hall classes. So I actually went up to him, like the little security broke it up. Hey, everybody get back to class, you know. And I'm like, I ran up to JB. His name was Jason Brooks. AKA JB the Great. I walked up to him and I'm like, yo, that was dope. Like I ain't never seen nobody move their feet that fast. What is that? He's like, yo, that's Chicago Footwork. And I was like, he was like, I'm from a triple phase. He threw up a little sign. I was like, I don't know what that means, but can you show me that? And even though I knew I didn't know how to dance, it was just something gravitated me like, I think I can do it. That looked like art, but it's not on paper. It's like your body was the art. So for me, it was like, that's dope. So we actually went to class, and I walked up to the teacher, Ms. Frigo. It was like, Ms. Frigo, you know, I always do my work. I never ask for nothing, but can Jason teach me footwork in the back of the class? We won't disturb the class or anything. And she was like, what? I was like, it's like dance moves. And she was like, okay, is there anything that I gotta do? Like, I was like, no, you ain't gotta play no music or anything. Like, he just gonna show me, we're just gonna be in the back. And she was like, long as all your other classwork is done. So we was like, okay, we're gonna show you that we did our other classwork, and then on our free time, like the last 10, 15 minutes, he'll show me a step. So he was showing me these things called dribbles, some basic foundation called dribbles. And I was just like, I don't know if I can move my feet that fast. It was like 2 left feet, so terrible at the time. But my heart was still thinking about getting the girls, and that was my motivation. Like, if I want to be popular like that, I gotta get it. So I was trying, and then he was like, you know what? He was like, once you get this step, I teach you another step, but you got to show me you can get this one first. And he was like, but I really think you should really see it. And now remind you, we're still all in the same day. So I'm like, okay, is it like a place y'all do this at? He's like, man, we go to parties. Matter of fact, it's a party this weekend. King of the Circle. And I was like, what? I was like, no, it's an event called King of the Circle. Everybody gonna be there. You're gonna see different styles. Everybody. Just watch, we're gonna go. So I was like, all right. So I'm like, okay, I'm about to go to an event to see this. That was my first time going to a party. Again, like, right, I didn't know anything about parties or anything. So this was like busting my cherry to a whole new world. So I go to this, we go to this, I want to add this part. My mom drove us and like dropped us off at the door, and I look out the window and the line is like around the building. I'm like, we gotta stand in that line? He was like, oh yeah, the party's like this all the time. I was like, are you serious? He was like, yeah, but we gotta get in line because it's like 10 other cars behind us, and they getting out their car like 10 people deep. I'm like, oh yeah, let's get out the car. We gotta hurry up, get out the car, because the more we wait in the car, it's more people getting in line. So we get out the car, and then JB like, follow my lead. And then he walked to the door like he was like a celebrity, like you don't have to wait in line. He walked to the door like, hey, I know the DJ solo in there. And they was like, it don't matter, you still got to get in the line. And we like, damn. He's like, I tried it. And so while we were we turned our back to like walk to get in line, and then we just heard these girls scream like, oh! And then I'm like, who is that? And he was like a celebrity. And JB was like, oh, that's Cowherd. He won the first King of the Circle. So I was like, damn, how many times do they do this? He's like, it's once a year. This the second one. I was like, damn, Cowherd, he must be really good. And when he walked up, the building light like shined on his face, and I was able to see his face. I was like, that's my next door neighbor, Lamar. And I was like, he's the winner of the King of the Circle? I didn't even know he danced. So it was like, hold up, wait. My next door neighbor is this legendary footworker that won the King of the Circle. This whole time he's my next door neighbor, and we played basketball, and I never seen him do this. So for me, it was like uncovering a whole nother world of people that I knew that I didn't even knew this aspect about them. So when I saw him, I was like, Cowherd. I was like, they call you Cowherd? Because that's his last name, Lamar Cowherd. I know him just as Lamar. I'm like, so they call you Cowherd. I know you as Lamar. He's like, JRon, what is you doing up here? Because again, I'm like a nerd at the time. He's like, what is you doing in this party? I was like, I'm trying to learn about Chicago Footwork. He's like, you footwork? I was like, no, I'm trying to learn. He's like, oh, come into the party. So we just walked straight in with him. So we don't have to wait in the line. So I'm like, damn, this dance give you like celebrities. Like I'm learning all of this, and like at the same time, like this dance is like giving you like celebrity status. It's like you could cut the line. You just like people know you. Now mind you, it's no internet at this time. So like this is huge for me. Like for these people to know my next door neighbor like this, like I never seen another, I don't want to say child, but another teenager have this type of enlightenment where people is like, oh, you know, like to somebody my age. So I'm like, what the heck? You know, so we walk in the party and I see other crews, different crews have different outfits on. They're matching. They're very coordinated. And I'm like, yo, I have to be a part of something like this. I never seen so many youth in one place. And the way it was like walking into a movie because it was so pitch black dark, but it was like this one light that beam in the middle, and it give the party this ambiance of like this circle light. And it's different like circles going on, but it's just this one light beaming. And it's like, dang, they're like, we about to get ready to start the King of the Circle. So I'm seeing these footworkers battle. I don't know who is who, but this one dude stood out, which ended up being King Charles. And for me, he was just light skinned, and the way he was dancing, he had a lot of animation with his movements. So for me, I don't know what is good footwork. I don't know what is bad footwork, but his body movement, I can see, I could relate to certain stuff that he's doing, even though I'm not a dancer. Like, oh, that was cold how his body was stiff, and then he turned his head, and then turned his head. Like, I'm like, oh. Now that probably would have sucked to a real footworker, but I don't know. But he definitely was doing his thing he was performing basically, I can say that. But it was other footworkers that was amazing too. Like, so I'm looking at this and I'm like, I have to get on this level. Even though this is my first day just learning about the culture and seeing the culture, one day I'm going to be mentioned in these people names. Like, so I'm looking at AG, like I don't know these people at the time, but AG was there, Q was there, a lot of Manny, a lot of people, Hot, Steve-O. I'm looking at all these amazing footworkers like, man, one day I'm going to be like that and I'm going to be mentioned with them. But I got some work to put in. So that was kind of like what started my drive in the culture. That's what started me in the culture, the music, it was just like, that was another thing. In the midst of the Footwork King of the Circle tournament, Footworkers was dancing, and at one part, the DJ at the time, DJ Clent, he was DJing, and he came around the table and started footworking. And I was like, the DJ do it too? He was dancing against Troy, but I was just like, who don't footwork besides me? Like, am I the only person here that don't footwork? I kid you not. It was this security guard in the party. He footworked. I was like, oh my God, the police officer footwork, the DJ footwork. Who don't footwork besides? Like, I feel so like an alien. Like, oh my God, I gotta learn how to footwork. Like, everybody got this footwork identity except for me. You know what I'm saying? It was like, oh, I've been missing this. So that's what had me started. And I was like, I gotta catch up to these people. And it like made me go full force, so focused to the point where I put on ankle weights, boots, to build my leg strength so I could be able to kick as fast as the people before me. Because again, they already was dancing for like previous years. So I had to try to catch up skill wise. So it was like that. Like, it was a big inspiration that day.
Your production style goes beyond the typical frameworks of acid, house, footwork, or juke and creates its own story and energy. How do you approach your workflow when producing a track?
Over time, I had to learn to like separate the sessions up into different parts, and that give me space to build up libraries to be able to try different things. So I have sessions where it's just for sound design. I have sessions where it's just for production. And I try to like really like separate them, keep them separate, and like watch the time and the amount of time that I'm spending doing different tasks, because you'll find yourself like getting real over meticulous. Like, I could get this snare to sound like this, and just like I spend an hour like tweaking the knob. So I try to have like sessions divided up, and that's been helpful for carving out space. And I got that tip from Machine Drum. He was like, build up a library and then make a project. And I was like, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that. shout you out, Travis.
Do you have a preferred DAW or hardware to use when producing?
I would say this is definitely this is big help to the sound of making Footwork, how it sounds to us. I could do it also on a machine, and it was kind of frowned upon a little bit, but RP uses a machine, and we love his music. And I think that's kind of like a recent thing, but but yeah, I love this. This is kind of my go-to. I'm like, it's a really natural flow where I'm able to, my drums are kind of in a situation where I'm making a track and I want it to sound a certain way. I will have programs that's already kind of put in place, and I'm just adding flavor from like samples, sounds, and I usually do everything in a box. I make a lot of stuff where it's just, I'll do like 3 different synth tracks, and then I'll just drum that out for 3 minutes, like something like this. And then I could go through the sequences. And it's all in the box. There's nothing external about it. I could walk around and do this. And like, I feel like a mad scientist sometimes, because I'm able to like really get these ideas out, and I don't need a lot to get ideas out or to express myself. I don't need a lot. And like, Footwork is kind of about that, in the sense where like, you got your message and you got your energy and your attitude, and you presenting that, and people gonna feel it or they not. And like, my music kind of like come off in that way, and too, in a sense. Like, I got the energy, the attitude, my own style and taste, and that's what I push. And like, you rock or you don't.
It's exciting to have Behind the Name back again. It's something very special and important to have to help document the culture. Are there any projects or anything in the future you're excited about?
So when it comes to the show Behind the Name, that show is a very vital piece in the culture because it connects future, past, and present as one. So somebody that joins this culture tomorrow can be able to access the stories of the past as the history and certain things on why things are done even to this day. We have people that have passed away, and we will like to give people their flowers while they are alive. We would like to highlight their contributions while they are alive. And I always feel that, yeah, when someone passed, you can easily read about a person, but it's no better story than that person telling their own story for that person to speak. Yeah, other people can speak for them when they're gone, but while they're here, let them speak. Let us all hear from their mouth. They the source of their story. Nobody know their story more than them. They lived it, you know. They the testimony of that. They know every detail. So the Behind the Name show is a raw show that you can get a chance to hear the good and bad of a person's journey and what got them to this point, their success. And each person is a different testimony, and is somebody in the world that can go through the same situation and think that it's impossible. But when they hear their story, they're shining light to show them, I was in your boat, but I made it possible. And if they can do it, you can too. So it was one of those things where we would usually have these talks after the party. So we all be dancing, but then after the party, people don't usually want to go home. So we either may be outside of the party and we talking, and the OGs may be there and they're talking about, man, back in the day, it used to be da-da-da-da-da. We used to be out in the parties, and they'll just be talking, you know, just in like a little circle, people talking about the good old days and what it was like back then and how it is now. But it would only be that selective 6-7 people that stayed after the party, but they're sharing so many diamonds that the world needed to hear. So Behind the Name is the way to open that conversation up to the world. One thing that I am very excited about in the future is the wavelength of events. And when I say that, it's because the future is being built now. So whatever that is going on now will shift where the future leads. So at this moment, I am seeing more events starting to emerge. I'm seeing more footwork parties, which would be like these, when I say parties, not necessarily like the old school parties, but they are more like footwork sessions in a party setting. So just to iterate on what I mean, whereas back in the day in Chicago Footwork, there were parties where you heard a variety of music, and then in certain sections of the party they played Chicago Footwork music, and that was when people did Chicago Footwork, but then other genres will play. And you have a chance to dance, you know, boy on girl or things like that. That was like the organic, you know, beginning. Over time, they started making battle events where it was Chicago Footwork music played the whole time, and it was no longer in a party setting, and it was more in like a staged event, if that makes sense. So you have one organic where the lights is low and people just vibing, and then the other one is all these bright lights and cameras set up to record and hope that it can be organic. So it's starting to drift back into a club scene. So there are different places now where they are hosting these like footwork sessions and things like that, but it's in a club scene where they are starting to play different music, which is good because it's getting it back to that essence, but it's only for like 21 and up at this time. But I would love for the young generation to get a chance to experience parties, because I feel that that will also stop the violence in Chicago if the youth had these outlets to dance their anger out or dance their sadness out and learn how to interact with another person that looked like them, no matter if they live on this side of the train track or not. So I feel that if they had these types of places for the youth to be able to experience it, they will learn how to communicate with one another in more than one way than taking another's life. So I feel that if more events start blossoming, which they are, like the picnic I said, as far as the Havoc Picnic, now we got the West Side Picnic. So I'm looking forward to the West Side Picnic, but then I hope that inspire another group or individual to create a picnic or maybe a footwork festival. You know, something that has never been done before. So it's just one of those things that I hope it inspire other people to keep thinking bigger, 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 and use the format that it can be done. It can be done. So it's just the unity, you know, like for it to be a festival, it needs to be unity. It needs to be more than one person putting it together, you know, funding, things like that, a team. So it's just one of those things, like I would love to see a festival, but I'm just really happy on where the culture is right now. We have a lot of things happening this year. Besides the picnic, Budilla, he's starting an event called The Crown, which will be a new event, will be happening once a year. And I'm looking forward to it because that's gonna be a monumental thing, because I spoke about my first party, which was the King of the Circle, which was who was the top person in Chicago. This event called The Crown will be who is the top in the world. So it's not just Chicago, the world. So you have people that's able to sign up because everybody will be in August from flying from different countries, and they're able to enter a worldly Chicago Footwork tournament. So it's like, I would have never thought of that back in 2002, that one day it's going to be a tournament where it's going to be people from Japan, Atlanta, LA, all these different countries and cities coming to compete in a King of the Circle type event, you know? So I'm just really looking forward to seeing what other events start to conspire and get inspired to be created. And I'm really looking forward to that. I hope some people may use technology, you know, like a footwork video game or anything, you know. It's just a lot of stuff that my mind is always creative, but I'm looking forward to the things to come in the culture.
How did you create the concept, world building, and story behind your project Unleash on Hyperdub? What was the inspiration behind using tapestries, 3D art, VR, adventure game, and blending different mediums to tell your story?
The entire time that I made music, I've always like did the artwork for it. So like, all right, let's go back to like 2009, 2010. iTunes was like kind of a thing where you would like upload the art and put your music in there and like build up your crates and stuff on there. So like for my own, I had to have my own music, and I had to like make the artwork and album covers for it. So I had like hack Photoshop and I just make the craziest, like loudest art that I could. And over the years that skill set developed, like creative direction and like making graphics for music, or just thinking about that, like what do I want the sounds to look like visually, and then over the years through Footwork, I've been able to meet artists that are talented, amazing world builders, like people from Nice Lugs or like Merlot, like definitely Merlot. Yeah, they're crazy world builders, and it just Burial, people like that just and then I take the opportunity seriously. So I recognize good albums have stories or concepts or themes, and footwork shouldn't be different. Like it should be able to hold up, you know, still be able to like have the weight that it have, but you can have a concept or theme or story, and there's artists that are able to do that.
It's very inspiring to hear all the projects you have released over the years and taking in the different dimensions of what you create sonically and visually. Is there anything in particular you're excited about for the future?
Being able to make more change and do bigger like ideas and like innovate and showcase and represent and be good, be great. Like honestly, that might sound away, but that should be able to be a good thing. Yeah, and that's how I feel. I want to be able to represent, because this has been around me like my entire life. So I want to be able to show it, like, and then the world is doing it too. I want to be a good representation of it, authentic representation of it, a strong one. And that's how I perceive like what I do, and that's why I take it so serious, and that's why I'm always learning about it and studying.
I want to work on a project for 2024 called Kick Rocks. I am working on this project already. Kick Rocks has been a long time coming. I'm a big fan of rock music, and not a lot of people have seen me fully put energy into it. So I'm going to, and that's what I've been working on behind the scenes. So be on the lookout for a Kick Rocks project. It's like a connection between Chicago Footwork and rock. And learning more about the roots of rock music and like who started it, and like why is there not dancers on stage while rock bands are playing? Like why is there this separation and segregation? Like, you know, Red Hot Chili Peppers called me and my crew up for a reason. You know, shout out to John from Red Hot Chili Peppers, who was doing a lot of work with DJ Rashad. You know, like he has an interest in the music and like wants to connect the dots. I think that's just the beginning point, and I think there's a lot more we can do, because if rock music has a fire element to it, so do we, and we can communicate through that and make some noise. So I want to do it.
I see growth, and I see expansion, and I see it more readily available. Like I could go on Instagram and I could scroll and I could see like people hitting like, you know what I'm saying, rounds and routines that wasn't always a thing. Like, so I feel like that's what we want to see. I want to see more people from the city, and like I want to see them have more opportunities. I feel like there were so many like amazing dancers that slipped through the cracks, or like they got ate by their environment, and they weren't able to like show, you know, the masterfulness like that comes with this, like, because it's really difficult. It's you have to spend a long time. Like there's a lot of years that go into mastering any of the lanes that go into footwork. Anybody who do this know this. So yeah, just it would be nice to see more opportunity for the inner city, and like people who from here like be able to showcase it on a higher quality like stage and like just platform. But I love seeing it in different countries and different cities, and seeing them develop groups and styles and events, and they're producing records and labels, and that's crazy. That's amazing. That's like, honestly, I think that was the plan. Like that, so it's like it did what it needed to do. Like kind of changed the game in a sense. And I feel like I mentioned, there are leaders that are coming into like their OG status, and they're doing a good job of hosting events and collaborating with each other to like do cash prize like events and like battles and like, you know, just help out and give back in like in the increments that they can. But they're still getting overlooked. Like these groups still getting overlooked. Like there's always these little moments where mainstream will kind of reach in and pull from like communities like this, like they do at to ballroom all the time. And they'll come in and grab 1 or 2 dancers, or they'll grab like, you know, a handful. But like there's a lot of people who like, they're good, and if you just put them like on stage, they'll snap. So like, just I want to see more of that.